Hello, everyone. Arizona State Legislative Hearing, Part 5.
In Pima County, so it would be possible and feasible to do a full audit, a ballot audit. And I also was informed that your state, through the Counterterrorism Information Center and the DPS here in Arizona, do have the capability to analyze and validate ballots for ink consistency. So if there were mass-produced ballots in Maricopa County that were stuffed, your DPS, I've been informed, has the capability to analyze those ballots for paper consistency and ink consistency. So if there were mass-produced ballots, you could determine that on your own.
Excuse me, Colonel Alden. So I think what you're saying, and I'm going to repeat this back to you, these might be pre-printed ballots to simply move through the system. Is that what you're suggesting?
There are indications, we have affidavits from Pennsylvania that there were ballots that were pre-positioned in a bobtail trailer, a tractor trailer truck,
Okay.
and that these ballots were, the thought was that this was a cache that they could go and grab the amount of ballots they needed and take them to the specific tabulation centers. That's an affidavit that's from our Pennsylvania work.
Colonel,
So repeat one more time the piece of information that I think people were shocked about, because it is hard to believe. Did you say that a Pima County official said that they didn't validate any of the mail-in votes?
That was Maricopa.
Maricopa?
They didn't
Sorry.
validate the signature. They didn't validate the signatures on the mail-in ballots.
And that's 1.9 million.
Correct.
And do we know who that is?
I would have to get the video.
Or could you get it for us?
Oh, yes, sir.
No, you don't have to do it right now, but before the end of the hearing. That would render every one of the 1.9 million votes absolutely never checked for fraud, deceit, mistake. And if they're mail-in votes, that can't be done now. They've been separated from the envelope.
Correct.
That would indicate.
The
So those are
validity of
basically 1.9 million votes that are illegal votes.
or that had the potential to be illegal votes that weren't validated. The signatures
But
weren't validated.
can we determine now if any of them are legal or illegal?
If the envelopes were separated from the ballots, there would be no way to tell a ballot for candidate. You could still go back and look at the envelopes to validate the signatures, but you wouldn't know what the ballot.
And isn't that the reason you're supposed to have an observer when you do that?
That is part of the chain of custody procedures, I believe, in Arizona.
And when they talk about chain of custody, that's what they're talking about, right?
Correct.
Because a lot of witnesses are going to talk about that. So let's just sum up a few of the things that you also found. Tell us about the green button in Maricopa County on the machine. And there is one witness that's going to testify that all day she saw election officials constantly pressing the green button when somebody was voting.
So what that was when a voter wasn't sure, and I believe this was also linked to another witness that's going to talk about with the differences in the pins and the Sharpies, that the Maricopa Elections Division, in early voting, they specified that only use ballpoint pens for voting, and on election day, they specified only use Sharpies. And the idea is that as the bleed through on the ballot, as the scanners would cause an error in an error ballot, by creating the error ballot, the election officials basically would slide those votes into a batch file that could be adjudicated by the election administrator or the operator. And the green button was to say, okay, there's an error, but go ahead and push cast ballot, and it punches that into an error file that can be adjudicated by the election administrator.
Now, and you examined the voter database, and your team did, right?
Say again, sir?
You examined the voter database, you and your team.
Those were actually some local Arizona folks that examined that.
So you took that from
I spoke
State
directly.
data? Oh, I see, okay. You spoke directly to whom?
To local investigators here.
And you have here voter database discrepancies. 6,000 voters, at least, entered into database with no sex and default date of birth, and they're non-existent in LexisNexis.
Correct, and I believe there'll be a witness to discuss that later this morning.
So unless those can be discovered, those votes would have to be eliminated.
Correct, and it was explained to me that the way that happens is that you can register online for a driver's license at the same time you can register for voter registration. But the driver's license doesn't require the same information as the voter rolls, and so those kind of go into a queue that the Secretary of State would approve for the voter rolls over time. But there appear to be 6,000 voters that are on the voter rolls in the voter database with no sex and a default date of birth. So in other words, they entered 0101, 1900 or whatever that date was.
They also discovered over 2,000 votes that used a false address, an address of a vacant lot.
Correct.
You already told us about the 1,915, 487 mail-in votes that were not verified with regard to signature in Pima County, in Maricopa County.
Correct.
Also, in Pima and Maricopa County, Republican poll watchers were very often forced to stay outside, and unable to view the vote process.
Correct.
And is there an estimate of the number of illegal immigrants that voted in the election? Has anyone done an estimate of that?
The American Immigration Council suggests that there are about 300,000 ineligible voters, and then one of the local newspaper reported that there were another 312,000, I believe, non-incarcerated felons and other ineligible voters.
Has any attempt been made to investigate that, to determine if they can locate a sufficient number of illegal immigrants voting illegally that would have a bearing on the outcome of the election?
That would really be done by the county election officials.
But it hasn't been done.
Not
And they're going to certify the vote, apparently, without doing it.
I'm not aware if they.
It would be. You'd have to be an idiot not to think that illegal aliens, immigrants, voted, right?
It's very possible.
How many are there in Arizona, approximately? Anybody's guess, but what's the lowest number? Can anybody help me with that?
Question for the local legislatures.
5 million? 4 million?
I wish we knew, sir.
Pardon me?
I wish we knew.
Mr. Chairman.
What's the lowest number we could use? 4 million?
Representative Cook?
Mr. Chairman, my colleague, Representative Townsend, and I have had several discussions over the past few weeks about that number, and she could provide that to Mr. Giuliani.
Please, Ms. Townsend.
Thank you. And Mr. Giuliani, Mayor Giuliani, I can't tell you how many people are in this state that are potentially can vote illegally as an illegal alien, but I can tell you that there is a way for them to vote under the federal-only voter program, meaning that someone here illegally or a fake name, anybody that can put together a voter registration card with a fake name, or if they're not eligible to vote and are not in the MVD system here in Arizona, when they register to vote, if they're not found in the MVD system, the DMV system, they're not there, then they're contacted to see, do you have a birth certificate? Do you have anything to prove your citizenship? When they don't answer, then their name is relegated to the federal-only voter list, which there's 36,000 in the state of Arizona of people who can't prove their citizenship, can't prove they exist, other than when they show up to election day, all they have to do is show their bank statement, their title to their car, anything you can reproduce on your own computer with your fake name on there or whatever, and onto a bank statement, and you get a ballot, and you can vote for president and your congressperson and senator. So up to 36,000 plus people in Arizona could potentially vote, and I do have the numbers of who has voted in Maricopa County is 4,100 of the true federal only, and another 4,000 that are supposedly out of state. So those alone haven't been researched deeply enough to know, does that name even exist as a person, and are they here? Is that someone here who's here illegally or not? So we don't know upwards of 8,000 people in Maricopa County alone who have cast a ballot who weren't able to.
Well, and that's pretty astonishing. So I will say, I may be wrong, but let's say there were 5 million illegal aliens in Arizona. It is it's beyond credulity that a few 100,000 didn't vote, particularly given Representative Townsend's explanation that there's an encouragement that goes on to have them vote. Now, every one of those votes would be an illegal vote. Every one of those votes denies a lawful voter of their franchise. Just wipes it out. Has there been any attempt to try and investigate that after the election, even on a sample basis, like going to a district where there are a large number of possible illegal aliens, go back, check the names, and see, were there 5,000, were there 10,000, were there 20,000? Has there been an attempt to do that?
Mr. Chair.
None that I'm aware of.
I mean,
Yes,
that's totally...
yes. Can I speak to that, Mayor?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
So we put in 2 years ago. We put in an elections integrity unit in the Attorney General's office, and I've been on the phone with them, asking them what are they going to be doing, how can they look into this, and they told us that they don't have the authority to go out and look for a crime. They have to have it presented to them, so they can't go out and do an audit. They can't go out and actively research this. I also was told the same thing by the Board of Supervisors, that they cannot perform an audit above and beyond what's already been done that's in statute. So all we're really left with that I'm aware of is having, and as much as I appreciate this forum today, and I'm very grateful for you, we need an actual committee hearing. Like, I'm the chair of the Elections Committee. If we were to hold an actual committee hearing, we would have subpoena power to go and look at the machines. So look at these things, and inspect them. And get down to it. So we can do an audit. We just need to conduct a committee hearing to give us that subpoena power to be able to do so.
Mr. Giuliani?
So when this vote is certified, if that's not done, there is no question in any reasonable person's mind that the vote totals contain large numbers of illegal votes from people who are not citizens of the United States. The question is, how many? And the officials certifying have made no effort to find out the truth, which seems to me gives the state legislature a perfect reason to take over the conduct of this election, because it's being conducted irresponsibly and unfairly. Why doesn't your state legislature exercise its responsibility under the Constitution?
Mr. Giuliani, that is the essential question that we are here to ask.
So now, anything else? Colonel, you did a great job. He's available for any more questions.
If you are done,
All day.
if you are done, Mr. Giuliani, we do have a number of questions from the panel members.
Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching Jazz That's Me.